Good day, Deep and Word family. Welcome to day 176 of our Bible study review. Today we're going through two chapters in the book of Daniel, 5 and 6. Chapter 5, we see that Belshazzar, who is the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, he holds this huge feast, right, for all of the government officials, for all of the nations, and it says his wives and his concubines and all of those who are with them. They are drinking, right, drinking into a drunken stupor. And what they want to do is take the holy instruments that were used for worshiping and praising Yah, that is in their temple. They want to take it out and they want to drink wine from those vessels. And so they do, and they give honor and glory to the gods of gold, silver, bronze, right? And in the midst of all of this, then there is a hand that comes out of nowhere and starts writing these words upon the wall. And it says immediately, the king's countenance was changed. He went from joyful, drunken stupor to sober real quick and knocking of his knees. So just like his grandfather, he calls for all of the astrologers, all of the magicians, right? Those who practice divination. He's calling for all of them to come to see if someone can read the handwriting on the wall and then interpret it. But there was no one who could. And so this deeply troubled Belshazzar. But his mother, the queen, came in and she told him not to worry, not to fear, that she knew of one Hebrew man, right? One of the sons of Judah who knew how to interpret from the days of his grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar. So Daniel was summoned to this feast. And let's pick up in verse 13 and read about it. It says, Then Daniel was brought in before the king, and the king spoke and said to Daniel, Are you that Daniel who is one of the sons of the captivity of Judah, whom the king, my father, brought out to Judah? Now don't let this confuse you. This is the way that they spoke back in the day. If you were a son of David, you were from that family line, not necessarily their son. You could be their grandson or their great-grandson. And we know this because the children of Israel say, Our father Abraham. All right, let's pick back up in verse 14. It says, Now I have heard of you that the spirit of Elohim is in you, and that the light and understanding and excellent wisdom have been found in you. Now the wise men and the astrologers have been brought in before me, and they could not read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, but they could not give the interpretation of the matter. And I have heard of you that you can give interpretations and solve problems. Now if you can read the writing and make it known to me, you shall be clothed in scarlet and have a chain of gold about your neck and be the third ruler in the kingdom. Daniel is not impressed, nor is he concerned. He says, you can keep your gifts and give it to someone else. He says, nevertheless, I will give you the interpretation. I will tell you what this means. So let's pick up in verse 18. O king, the most high God gave Nebuchadnezzar, your father, a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would, he slaughtered, and whom he would, he kept alive. Whom he would, he set up, and whom he would, he put down. But when his heart lifted up and his mind hardened in pride, he was disposed from his kingly throne, and he took his glory from him. And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like animals, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. He was given grass to eat like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, until he knew that the Most High God rules in the kingdom of men, and that he appoints over it whomever he wills. Yet you, his son, O Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, though you knew all of this, but have lifted up yourself against Yahuah, the one of heaven. And they have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your lords, your wives, and your concubines have drunk wine in them. You have praised the gods of gold, silver, and bronze, and iron, and wood, and stone, which see not and hear not, and the God in whose hand is your breath, and whose all of your ways you have not glorified. Then the hand was sent from him, and this is the inscription which is written. And so Daniel reads, Mene, Mene, Tekel, a parson. And then he goes in to translate what it means. And he says, Mene, God has numbered your kingdom and put an end to it. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and are found wanting, meaning the time for your judgment is up. and Perez. Your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Then Belshazzar gave the command and clothed Daniel in scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he would be the third ruler in the kingdom. That same night Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, was slain. Then Darius the Mede received the kingdom about 62 years old. Now, if you want a refresher, we went through this in the book of Isaiah of exactly how Babylon would be overthrown. So this is going to be Isaiah chapter 45, verses 1 and 2. It is during the time of Belshazzar's feast that all of the Medes and the Persians were actually surrounding the city. They were ready to take it over in that moment. So when you read Isaiah chapter 45, verses 1 and 2, then you will see the prophecy exactly spelled out, exactly how the Medes and the Persians would overthrow the Babylonian kings. Although they were ruling in the territory, the Babylonian kings were done. It was now time for the silver portion of the image, the Medes and the Persians. I also recommend checking out the videos down below for an in-depth study of the book of Daniel, of all of these things, the historical events tied around all of these things. These videos down below will help you understand on a grand scale. Now we know that the gold portion of the image of Daniel 2 is done. Now it's the silver portion coming into power. So keep that in mind as we're walking into Daniel chapter 6. The powers that be have shifted. Let's start reading from verse 1 of chapter 6. It says, "It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 viceroys, so that they would be over the whole kingdom, and over them 3 governors, of whom Daniel was the first, so the officials might give accounts to them and the king not to suffer loss. Then Daniel was preferred above all of the viceroys and all of the governors, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm." Then we see all of the other viceroys and governors come to conspire against Daniel. They are jealous of him because he is preferred by King Darius over all of them. They couldn't find any fault in him, so they wanted to set a trap. They said, "We know that he is faithful to his God, and that's the only way that we can set up a trap for him. So let's go and convince the king to make a royal decree." Now, a Persian decree, you cannot go back on that thing. Once it is set in stone, it is set in stone. So let's pick up in verse 7 of chapter 6. It says, "All of the viceroys of the kingdom and the governors and the officials and counselors and captains consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whoever shall ask a petition of any god or any man for 30 days, except for the king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish a decree and sign the writing that it will not be changed, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which may not be altered." Therefore King Darius signed the writing, even the decree. And so Daniel was made known of this decree, but he was like, "Yeah, I don't care. I'm still going to open up my windows and I'm going to sing songs and petition my God for my needs. I know where my help comes from and I don't care about this decree." And so all of the government officials, right, all of the viceroys, all of the governors, they come and they tell on Daniel to the king, right? And we know that King Darius loved Daniel. All of the haters and the jealous ones of Daniel reminded the king of the decree that he already signed. And so the king had trouble sleeping, right? And they took Daniel and they put him in the den with lions. And then they put a stone over the wall and the king's seal, and they would not open it until the morning. And King Darius could not sleep. And in the morning time, he rushed to go see about the well-being of Daniel, and he cried out to him. Let's pick up in verse 21. It says, "Then Daniel said to the king, 'O king, live forever. My God has sent his angel and has shut the lions' mouths so that they have not hurt me, because innocence was found in me before him, and also before you, O king. I have done no harm.' Then the king was exceedingly glad for him and commanded that they take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of harm was found on him, because he believed in his God. Then the king commanded that he brought all of the men who had conspired against Daniel and cast them into the den of lions, along with their children and their wives. And it says that the lions overpowered them and broke all of their bones in pieces before they came to the bottom of the den." At the very end, we see much like King Nebuchadnezzar, King Darius writes out a royal decree that all men, all tribes, all tongues, all languages, everyone within the province of Babylon shall fear and tremble before the God of Daniel, because no one delivers and saves like he does. He is the King of kings and he is the Lord of lords. He rules over all of the kingdoms of the earth. The chapter closes out telling us that Daniel was successful all throughout the reign of Darius and all throughout the reign of King Cyrus. What is the ultimate takeaway from Daniel chapter 1 all the way to where we are now? It pays to be faithful to your God, no matter where you are. They were in their exile, and we are currently in our exile. We won't be home until Messiah calls us up and takes us to Jerusalem. It pays to be faithful to the one in whom you claim to love. When you are faithful, when you take a stand, no matter where you are, and then others see how he delivers you out of situations where he doesn't deliver other people, it will cause them to respect and honor him and to respect and honor you. Again, these are prime examples of how we shall stand in these last days. We do not comply. We do not bow down to the worldly agendas. We do not stop worshiping and praising our Yahuah Elohim because they tell us not to. That's not going to fly for us. Let's have the resolve like Daniel. Let's have the resolve like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, knowing that our God is able to deliver us. And even if he doesn't, we will not bow to another. Deep in Word family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.